everybody, and thanks for joining me today. I have moved my frame over one more time and continuing to work on the peacock's feathers, the wing feathers. Won't reach the tail feathers this month, but I'm pretty happy with the progress I've made. I've surpassed my 6,000 stitch. In fact, I'm at past 7,000 stitches for the month, so that is, I'm happy with that. And not starting at 0 today because I woke up early and stitched some while I was waiting for the ambient light level to come up a bit so that I could film. I have my crafting lamp on, but yeah, I find, like I often say, there's no substitute for natural light. And so I had to wait for that, the sun to come up a bit more. So I would have hopefully some decent lighting conditions for filming with y'all. And then I started stitching and then I used the wrong color and I have no idea why I did that, but for some reason I picked up number 317 for these stitches, which is not even close. I had to rip those out and I thought, okay, I'm just gonna start all over again and hopefully get it right from this point onward. Oh my. Yeah, I was saying waiting for the light to come up, but it actually is still kind of gloomy. It's an overcast day today, but I won't complain. It's rain and not snow, so. Like I started at 46 stitches here. I had to rip out the last few that I did in the wrong color, but I hadn't marked them as done yet, so I will after this. Oh, what is going on there? That's no good. Yeah, don't do that, please. Oh, I hate that. Formed a little tiny knot, but fortunately it will stay on the back. So I don't need to cut it out. This is the last session of the month. Happy Halloween, if you celebrate. So I think there's a little bit more of a purple flower right here and then feathers. So I'm going to kind of work across sort of that whole area back and forth for today, for today's stitching. So I was saying that I hope to be done this pass by the end of December, and doing the math, that should be no problem. It's under 11,000 stitches left to reach that milestone, and I've been managing, this last month I managed 7,000, so I've been saying 6,000 is sort of my more conservative estimate for the month, and I've been managing that. So obviously under 11,000 stitches, that means 2 months is no problem to get that done. I should be partway into the very last pass by the end of the year, barring any major unforeseen things cropping up. Yay! And that means we will be close to, that much closer to the finish. Somebody said, not that far off of 90%, which is not that far from being completed, which is true. I am, like I said, estimating around May. And if I'm earlier than that, then bonus. Maybe by Easter, but I think Easter is early April next year. So we will see. Yeah, I saw someone saying in a meme that it would make more sense for us to have 13 months of a year that are exactly 4 weeks long, like closer to the lunar calendar, but that still wouldn't quite work because you would still have to account, because they were saying then sort of like Monday would always be the same date on a on a calendar, but the problem, as I said, it wouldn't work up perfectly either because we have leap years, which would mess things up. So it was kind of a neat idea, but or somebody said, like, why is, September, October, which, like, Octo is 8, right? September, like, sept as in, like, how you say 7 in French. Why aren't they the 7th, 8th months? Like, yeah, well, they used to be. Then the calendar got all messed around with. Different emperors wanted their own months or whatever, so. And I had to wait a little bit too because I was saying for filming, because I use my old phone. For some reason, I find that camera focuses better than the one on my new iPhone. You would think better, newer technology would be more effective, but it's not. And anyway, I forgot to charge it, and the battery was so low that when I went to film, I plugged it in right away, but it was right on that about to turn off stage. And so I plugged it in and I went to try and set it up, and boop, it turned off. So I had to sit and wait for it to charge for a little while before I could film with it. That's why sometimes I forget to put my phone in Do Not Disturb, and you'll hear notifications come in during the session. This time I remembered, and there was an update and they changed it. So the other day I always put my phone in Do Not Disturb before driving so that I don't get distracted by anything. Because if like emails come in, the sound will drop off because I use it to play music. And like even if I don't pick up the phone, it distracts me, right? And so I like to put it on Do Not Disturb to make sure that nothing is going to distract me while I'm driving. And somehow I was just trying to turn it on because I just go to the pull down screen, hit the little crescent moon thing that turns off it, and then drive. And then when I come home, I hit it again to toggle it off. And it had this new, personal focus. And it was like, how long do you want it to focus for? And which apps do you want to be silenced and all this stuff? And I'm like, why are you making this more complicated? I just wanted the on off switch, I don't want to sit there setting this up. I want to just put it in Do Not Disturb and drive home. And it did have a driving one, but that isn't the way I've done it for a long time, so I was a little annoyed. It took a while to kind of swipe through and finally find the just silence all notifications until I tell you to stop. Because I stopped using the driving setting, I remember, because there was a couple times I wanted to check something on my phone and I wasn't the one driving, I was a passenger, but because it goes by the way the vibration of it and how it's moving, it can tell when you're driving, and it was very annoying because it wouldn't let me turn it off because it assumed I was driving when I wasn't. I was a passenger, and so I stopped using that feature and just would turn it to Do Not Disturb manually and then turn it off again. And then, yeah, it was one of those, look, it wasn't broken, don't fix it. Let me just use the old style way. Yeah, how long do I want it on for? Till I decide to turn it off. And the other day, I didn't realize that because, again, I put it on Do Not Disturb when I go to sleep at night. And instead, it accidentally went into the focus setting and not the full Do Not Disturb setting. So I was almost asleep and bing, email came in, woke me up, scared the heck out of me. It's like, I was not happy. Like, I do have it set so that my husband and son's phone numbers will come through even on Do Not Disturb. And also the person who's our emergency contact is set for that as well. And it has a setting that if someone calls from the same number within, I think it's 5 minutes, it will go through the second time in case they don't have their phone. Because obviously I would not want to sleep through an emergency if a loved one needed me. I would rather my sleep be disturbed than something like that. Hopefully that will never be an issue, but I would never want it to be, hey, there was an accident and we couldn't reach you. Yeah, I don't need emails dinging all night and waking me up. That's no good. Alrighty. Yeah, as I said, you can see there's a little bit left of either this is purple on the edge of the wing or it's flowers. And I think it's there's a little flower bud at the bottom here. When I looked at the mock-up, yeah, there's some petals there. So, working on those. So kind of stitching more diagonally this time, but going the opposite way. I used to always stitch this way diagonally. Now I'm stitching sort of the other direction. There was an announcement in the Facebook Heaven and Earth Designs cross-stitch group that there's going to be a sale starting November 1st. So if you have some on your wish list that you've been looking forward to getting, that would be a good time to do it. I recommend you join the Facebook group. It's called the Official Heaven and Earth Designs Facebook group. And because they do put out freebie patterns. So there was like 2 or 3 for I was going to say Easter. I don't know why. I meant to say Halloween. And Artisy Cross Stitch group is another one I like. They also have lots of freebies in their files, and they release them fairly regularly. Like I'd say about once a month or so, they'll give free patterns, and they stay in the files section, the ones that they've previously released. Heaven and Earth Design sometimes will only release it for sometimes even just a day and then take it down, so you have to be paying attention so you don't miss it. Because there was a couple that I did miss. I mean, I probably wouldn't have stitched him anyway, but hate to have free stuff pass you by, right? And they do say that even if they were free, they don't allow you to share PDFs because of copyright issues. So you can resell a printed paper pattern as long as you've not already stitched it or, photocopied it or anything like that. But those freebies, they generally don't release as paper patterns. So it's a PDF, and once it's gone, it is gone. Ooh, my goodness. Ugh. Oh, rats. I had a feeling I had pulled a little too hard on that and unthreaded my needle. There we go. And I had only one more pin stitch to do too. Oh well. It happens. So I was trying to think of what to get kiddo for Christmas this year, because that's coming up. And said maybe we'll get him a nice quilt for his bed. He's got our old comforter, but it's pretty worn out and flat by now. So maybe get him a nice one. They make the fake down quilts are quite nice. We have one now. We used to have a real feather quilt, but it finally wore out after almost 20 years. And I was going to replace it, and man, they are not cheap. When we got the first one, we actually used money that was given to us as wedding gifts to get it. And we got it at Sears, so we got a pretty good deal for it. It wasn't that much, but of course, that was a long time ago. We got married in 2002, so prices do rise, and we were looking at quite a lot, and just thought, So I went looking, and I found the fake one. There was an outlet store nearby, and they had a fake one, and so I got it, and honestly, it's pretty indistinguishable from what the real thing was. And obviously, it was only a fraction of the price, so I was happy with that. So I think we'll get one for kiddo, too. And we need a king size. We have a queen size bed, but we use a king size quilt, so we don't have to fight over the covers. And it was funny because when we were buying it, and the salesperson was like, well, do you have a king size bed? We're like, no. And they're like, well, you want a king size quilt? We're like, yep. And she's like, well, the bed will look kind of, messy even when it's made. I'm like, I don't care, because I basically never make my bed. So who's going to see it? Except the people who sleep there. So I really don't care. And my mom was kind of annoyed when she heard that, because that's what she wanted to do, and my dad convinced her not to. Because of the way it would look. And it's like, okay, but you spend a lot more time sleeping in the bed versus looking at it. At least I sure do. So I'd rather be more comfortable. It's like the older I get, the less willing I am to put up with discomfort for the sake of fashion. When I was younger, I did, but now it's just like, nope. Yeah, these 4-inch high heels, they're cute, but my back will be screaming at me all the next day, so forget it. It's not my feet that hurt so much, it's my lower back, I guess the angle, because it's different from being up on your toes, basically. I almost threw my back out the last time I wore those heels for an evening, so I have not worn them since. I still have them because they're too cute and I can't get rid of them, but they are. Maybe one day, but I actually didn't mind when the style was platforms, because that's means your foot is in a little less of a extreme angle. I remember that. I was a teenager in the 90s and those made a comeback. Oh, who knows? By now, maybe they'll come back again. Fashion does seem to like to keep coming back, right? My dad used to say it was kind of funny. You see these younger guys growing their hair long to as like a rebellion. He's like, yeah, your dads did the exact same thing. I wonder, are we going to go to the huge parachute pants again? That one I don't mind if it didn't come back, that's for sure. I remember those, there was a guy asking, so what do you do? Like, do you try those on to make sure they don't fit? Says, or do you bring your friend who's a linebacker and buy pants that fit him and then wear them? The skinny jeans one is a trend I was never able to get in on for myself anyway. I mean, I don't care what other people wear. You wear what you want. But for me, I found them too constrictive and uncomfortable. And like I said, the older I get, the less willing I am to put up with discomfort for the sake of fashion. I want my comfortable clothes. Maybe 3 or 4 times a year I'll dress up and we go to a gala. But even then, I try to buy fancy dresses that are still fairly comfortable. Just kind of looking, there's kind of a feather shape here, and so that's what I'm going to fill in here. Sort of, like I said, working my way up from the bottom, kind of back and forth, and then I'll probably go up to the top and work another feather shape, but I think that will be for next month. Probably won't end the month count on a round number. Last month I ended on 257,002 stitches, so pretty close to a nice, perfect, even number there. So it was easy to know how many stitches I had done this month because of that. So I like to try to sometimes stop on like an even 1,000 because it makes the monthly count a little easier to calculate. But, oh well. I'm not going to put off doing more stitches just for the sake of that. I'd rather do more stitches and get further along. Water, my thermos there was bonking against my ends jar, making a noise, so I just moved it. And I bought myself some more water bottles, and they said they were dishwasher safe. They were not. And they came out of the dishwasher, they were all funny shapes. So I was a little annoyed at that. I wish you could buy just the lids, because I have these old Rubbermaid water bottles that I've had forever. Like, I think I got them when my son was a baby, so like I said, they've been around a while, and I've never had any of them get misshapen or anything, even from being in the dishwasher. But of course, the lids are what breaks, and you have to buy a whole new bottle, which is, you know, kind of a waste, and I would love it if I could buy just the lids. You can buy some of them, you can buy just like the gaskets, the rubber pieces and spouts and things, but you can't buy an actual just the lid, and I really wish you could, because like I said, I don't like the waste, because then it's kind of like, well, what do I do with the bottle part? Do I keep it, but then I don't have enough lids? Do I throw it away? It seems kind of a shame when there's nothing wrong with the bottle part to throw it away. I don't like wasting. And I find too, I can sometimes try to buy the same bottle so that the lids are interchangeable, but I find they change the design every few years, and it'll be off by a couple of millimeters, which means the lid won't fit, which is kind of frustrating. I wish they could make some sort of standardized, even across the same brand, and then at least, and then yeah, like I said, if you could buy just the lids. When my son was a baby, the company that made the sippy cups we liked actually did have the option to buy either just the new gaskets or just the lids, which was really nice because of course that's the part that wears out, but they don't do that for grown-ups water bottles. I mean, I guess they figure we're not chewing on them spouts or something, which I'm not, but the lids are the part that gets broken generally, and not the actual bottle part. There we go. I do notice when my skin is drier, it is harder to thread the needles. So I think some of this, like I said, purpley red is from the flower bud, but some of it is from the wing, and it's kind of hard to tell which is which. I guess once it's all stitched up and I can step back, it'll be more obvious which is which. So as you can see, just kind of working back and forth along this curve here. That's how I tend to do it. Oh, am I in the right place? Let's make sure. Oh yeah, okay, I am. I was looking at the wrong spot on the pattern. But yes, I am in the correct place. Oh, I think I did one yet. I I just didn't color it in yet. Yeah, it's showing as if there's one part there, but there isn't. I actually stitched it. I just forgot to mark it as done. Okay, do that and those, and that'll be right where my thread runs out. I love when it works out that way. Okay, so this one I just forgot to color it in. And now everything matches again. So I might, when I'm off camera, stitch until I'm kind of a nice even 247, and then that will make it sort of easier for next month to know exactly how many stitches I've done. Or 64, I should say, 65, yeah, 67. That'd be nice if I could do it that quick, but no. I've told you before, I am not a math person. That would bring me to 8,000 stitches for the month. Again, another nice round number. So far, since I started working part-time again, I have been keeping up with my 8,000 on the main piece. It's my secondary piece that's kind of suffered a bit. Although I did get some done this month. But if you follow my private Instagram, which is where I show my firefly piece, some months it doesn't get updated, and that's because I didn't manage to get anything stitched the previous month. So if you want to, you just on Instagram can search Gemma Stitches Private, and that's my private Instagram, and that is where I show the firefly. Okay, making sure I'm in the correct spot. Grid lines helping me out. I don't show it on my channel anymore just because of copyright concerns, so. I talked in other videos about dealing with radon gas in our home. Thankfully, the levels have come down quite a bit, so we are good. Yeah, apparently it does better for the radon gas if your foundation is on gravel. Ours was on packed sand, so that makes it hard for sort of the air to circulate. And so we had to sort of aerate it a bit. I said, like, this house is good. I'm not dissatisfied with it, but it seems sort of when there were two choices between, they always chose the worst one. So we had it on packed sand instead of gravel. That made it worse for the radon gas. Instead of copper wiring, it was aluminum, which is more prone to arcing. We've since replaced it because it was not good. Like I said, we were super duper lucky that there was never a fire. There was a few close calls. Basically, it's not good, especially when you live in a place with such severe temperature differences like ours does, because it contracts, and then when it's cold, and then it can break because it's not as pliable, and then you can cause arcing, which of course can cause fires, and you definitely do not want that. There was a few other houses on our street who had it that caught fire because of it. We had one where the, what do you call it? The microwave was plugged in. It killed 3 microwaves before I realized that it was the outlet that was the issue. And my husband went, looked over, and he poked it, and it was actually soft. That's how hot it was. So he immediately disconnected the power from it until it could be fixed. But like I said, thankfully, it didn't catch fire, because that would be very bad. And thankfully, nobody was injured in any of the fires, because it was all the houses on our street were built at the same time, as often happens, and they used the aluminum wiring in all of them, and like I said, thankfully nobody was hurt. So, because things can be replaced, people cannot, obviously. But there was one neighbor's house that the entire top floor was a complete loss, because the fire started when they were away and nobody saw it until it was actually flames. It was smoldering and stuff and filled with smoke, but there was no one there to hear the smoke alarms. And it wasn't until a neighbor saw it was actually on fire that they called the fire department, and it was super icy, and so it was hard for the truck to get out there quickly. And by the time they did, like I said, the top level was fully involved, and it took them a long time to fix, because it's not just the parts that burn, the rest of it gets smoke damage, which can be very difficult to get out. I said, well, we have actually a monitoring system, and I know it's good because when I was cooking Thanksgiving dinner this year, well, I made cheesecake, and it's in one of those springform pans, so sometimes the stuff can kind of leak out and end up on the bottom of the oven. And then when you go to heat up the oven again later, it burns and creates smoke. And so I opened the door to put the potatoes in, and this like cloud of smoke came out, hit me in the face. And I immediately turned the fans on, opened the window, but it was too late. It reached the smoke detector, went off. And so then the monitoring company called immediately and said, is everything? I said, yeah, that was me. It's just some burning food. The house isn't on fire. They said, okay, good. We'll put that down as a false alarm. But I said, I guess that's what we pay them for, is so if there was a fire and we weren't home, they would dispatch the fire department to us, which is definitely what you want. So it wouldn't be like our neighbors where, like I said, it wasn't until everything was fully on fire. This way it would catch it pretty quickly, and if nobody answers to tell them that it's a false alarm, they will dispatch the fire department. And so I said, well, I guess it does show they are giving us the service we're paying for. But yeah, kind of embarrassing to be like, yeah, that was just me. It was my cooking. Oh, dear. Oh, yeah, that was another one that I heard. They said that ovens come with a self-clean feature, which is basically it turns it up to like 500 degrees Celsius and burns everything off. Fire or oven manufacturers and fire departments tell you actually don't use that. Even though it's a feature on the oven, it can cause damage. And so the extreme heat of it can still cause damage. And So they say, yeah, even though it's more work, do it the old-fashioned way where you scrub it off the bottom of the oven manually. I mean, in the end, even if you burn it off, you still have to clean up the ashes, right? So, and they say the fumes too that it releases, that gets released from the smoke from burning, it's not good. So there was one guy saying from the fire department that he actually wishes they would just remove that feature from ovens entirely because of the problems that it can cause. So there's your PSA for today. All right, I'm going to grab a new strand here. So about to pass 200, but like I said, I did do, I think it was 46 before I started rolling. It's funny, we say that, but like technically, for most of us, there's no actual anything actually rolling, right? Or film. It's funny how technology changes and the language doesn't. Because they would say rolling because they were literally rolling reels of film from one reel to the other. And they still say that in the biz. And cut was literally physically cutting the film. Of course, that's not a thing that you do so much anymore. So they used to say things like that this scene was left on the cutting room floor. They meant literally the film was cut. And that piece was discarded. There's some directors, I think, who still prefer to use film, just like there's some photographers who still prefer to use the old school film and darkroom. My cousin is one and my sister is another. Like, they will take digital pictures, but they still like the classic process with a darkroom and all that. I think that's one of those things that's never going to quite go away, kind of like vinyl records. Right, that was in the other mode. So just kind of going to cut it off here, continue doing the bottom stuff, and then I will do the top stuff later. This way I don't want to sort of spread out over too large an area for the moment. Kind of keep it more contained. So how about I stitch to 250? That'll be over 200 stitches on camera. Sounds good to me. Fluffy coming up there. Start another new strand. I was hoping to reach 86% done, and I got well past that. So maybe 89% by the next month. That'd be cool. But like I said, I would imagine that 90% by the end of 2025 should be no problem. Not sure if I'll reach any more zeros by the end of this pass or not. I've got a few that are very close to zero. Yeah, about 10 of them that are 10 stitches or fewer. So, like Like I said, all the zeros will be in the last pass, of course. Those are always fun. There might be some because of the tail on the peacock is almost done in this pass. There's only a very little bit. So some of the bluey green colors might be zeroed out this pass. We will see. Figure it out as I go along, as usual. That's over 200 on camera now. So I will finish up this thread, and then I think that will be where I call it a day. We'll see if I can manage to do the last of these stitches with this thread. I think it will be just enough. So this was kind of a combination of some bigger blocks and some confetti. So like I said, the managed to make a pretty good progress today. I think his wing feathers extend for another kind of 20 or 30 more stitches, and then it'll be tail feathers again. Yeah, I had just enough thread. Love when it works out that way. Ta-da! So 262. Like I said, I didn't do all of them on camera, but I did over 200 of them with you. So thank you so much for joining me today, and hope to see you here next time. Thanks, everyone. Bye.